Hello. Thank you guys for holding this space for me today. I find myself to be someone who experiences their emotions very deeply and very passionately. I've always found my emotions overwhelming. When I was younger, this was difficult for me. Every question came with such force, and every emotion with such urgency. I was a curious child and a deep thinker. We can't control what we feel, only how much of it. If I numbed myself to the pain in life, I also numbed myself to the love. My journey coming into peace was learning to accept all of life's experiences. Each experience leads up to another, giving us the tools that we need to make decisions that are in alignment with our divine path. My path began in rural South Carolina in a small town called Hampton. My hometown has 2,000 people, more deer than people, they like to say. I loved the people around me, but I couldn't understand them. I couldn't understand their satisfaction with a simple life. I had ways to escape what I thought was my limited reality through books and dance, my imagination and relationship with a higher power. I was very aware of the fact that I was experiencing life differently than those around me. I knew that there was a big world out there. I just couldn't touch it. This internal drama really took a toll on my identity. It created a feeling of loneliness that I became very used to. If I couldn't live out life to its fullest experience, I didn't want to live at all. The mind of a young girl is a strange place to be. My babysitter would turn on the music video for Britney Spears' Lucky, which is the story of a young girl who's misunderstood by the world, and she sings off her hotel balcony in a fur robe, "If there's nothing missing in my life, then why do these tears come at night?" And I thought, that is so me. This drama reached an all-time high in 2019. I had to take responsibility of my mental state. I was in a low place where I would do anything to feel better. Instead of doing things with hopes of finding myself, I wondered what would happen if I did nothing. I tried meditating. My whole life I had been spiritual. I didn't know myself without a relationship to a higher power. But this tool of meditation, stillness to access consciousness, was completely foreign to me. I think that sometimes we're divinely called to action. You get an idea and you recognize a bit of yourself in it. When you get an idea or feel a call, you can either keep it in your mind as a fantasy, say you'll do it one day, or answer the call. There's no bad way to interact with your intuition, except for to ignore it. I believe that we'll always make the right choices at the right time to serve our higher good. When I sat down to meditate, I thought of a quote, and it seemed like a good place to start. I am not a person experiencing life. I am life experiencing a person. Who is she? Show me her. Who are you? Show me you. I closed my eyes, I took a breath, and I allowed myself to sink in. I blurred the lines between me and what I conceptualized as life. I felt deep love. I was both. For 20 years, I had talked to God, but here I had found a tool to experience God. God, for me, only meaning love. With this tool, love surpassed me. I no longer knew what was MaryElizabeth and what was love. We were one, and I was whole. My depression was the crack that let the light in. It was always essential to me. All of a sudden, I was grateful. I felt chosen even, that I could experience anything this beautifully, this deeply. Thank God I'm so emotional. I had found strength in my biggest weakness. And I kept going from here. I pursued my relationship with life like it was my greatest love. My first meditation was the experience that initiated my yoga practice. Yoga being most simply defined as the relationship between you and all else. I felt like I was on a mission. By expanding my capacity for stillness, I expanded my capacity for motion. It felt like my duty to receive the peace that I was experiencing, my duty to work with my intuition and work with the tools that were guiding me deeper into myself. I was experiencing contentment for some of the first times in my life. Meditation was a technique that allowed me to access the thing within myself that I was driving myself mad trying to find. I didn't need to do anything. I needed to do nothing. I spent 20 years looking for peace. I spent 1 year discovering it. The next 2, I would get to practice peace in the face of adversity. Because on a regular day in 2021, my life would change forever. I was asleep in my apartment until I woke in the middle of the night to the sound of my door opening. The door of my small apartment that led to the outside was right by my bed, and when I looked up, there was a man standing above me. His hand was in his pants, masturbating to the sight of my sleeping body. I had never seen eyes like the ones that he looked at me with. I screamed, which invited him in, and he told me that if I screamed again, he would kill me, and I believed him. I was trapped with him for about 20 minutes. In this fight, I would have to use my tools, the same tools that I developed to fight my depression. I had to exert physical strength, but more than that, I had to show emotional strength. Everything I had learned was essential to this moment. There are a few things that impacted what happened and how I got out. The first is acceptance. No one heard me scream. No one was going to save me. I remember thinking if I was going to get out, I would have to think of a way. The second is presence. I was in pain from being beaten, but it was essential that I didn't lose consciousness. When he choked me and I knew I was about to pass out, I took a deep breath, and at the last possible moment, I let my body go limp. He thought that I had passed out, which gave me a few seconds to create space in between us so that we could talk. The third thing that saved me is mindful observation. I noticed that when I spoke, he responded differently to tones of my voice. I was able to figure out a bit about the man in front of me. When he looked at my body, I grabbed his face and I forced him to look me in the eye. I told him, I am a good person, and you are doing something horrible. I confronted him with his actions, and while it didn't save me from the assault, it humanized the experience. I had to allow myself to look into his eyes and connect with him in order to move through this skillfully. I asked him about himself, his relationship to life, his family, and when he realized that I was distracting him and became aggressive again, I had already thought of a way out. He responded so well to assertiveness that I decided to negotiate. It is sad that I had to negotiate my sexuality, but I never had plans to do what I told him that I was going to do. I positioned myself perfectly in the room. I took off my clothes, and when his guard was down, I took off running. He followed behind me, but he slipped and fell at my ankles, giving me the few extra seconds that I needed to escape. When the police arrived, they cleared my bedroom, and then they let me peek in. I saw my own bloody handprints on the walls, my gold pajamas laying on the floor, and my once white bed stained red. My childhood stuffed bunny sitting right there in the pool of my blood. I went to the hospital and I repeated the story over and over to police and investigators while we waited for the sexual assault nurse to come and perform the kit on me. I was more shocked at the world than what I had just experienced. I felt the energy of an oppressed collective and became very aware of my privilege. Privilege to a justice system that would legally see this situation through. Privilege of support from my community, and the financial privilege that I would never have to spend another night in that apartment. As I healed in the weeks after, transformation continued to happen within me. The violence that was brought to me introduced a counter energy, a slower, sweeter, more gentle approach to life compared to the fire that I had under me before. I could have died, but I lived, and that was something that I could be grateful for. I felt inspired to share my spiritual and emotional journey now that I knew that these tools could truly save lives like it had mine. I began to talk to my family about healing topics, the importance of deep acceptance and divine timing. And my family and friends really gathered around me and gave me the support that I needed to move through this with grace. We all became a little more aware of the tenderness of life and how quickly things can change. About a month after my attack, my dad received a phone call from his brother saying that his wife and son had been badly shot. My dad was out the door in no time, and my mother, sister, and myself stood speechless with no information. I called my other uncle and I asked him what we could do, and he said nothing. They're dead. There's nothing to be done. Both of them? I asked him. Both of them, he told me. On the kitchen floor, we held each other and cried. The media would call it execution-style murders. The media would change everything. 2 days later, my grandfather passed away. He passed in his bed surrounded by his children and grandchildren, and we held his hands expressing our love and gratitude towards him, sending him gently into death. Within a few days, my family experienced both the most violent and intrusive of deaths and the most peaceful and loving of ones. This is life. It's love and it's pain. The story of the murders is a long and complicated one. We found out that my uncle is an addict and had been stealing money from the law firm founded by my family generations ago. It was a total shock and the ultimate betrayal to the integrity of our family. Since then, he has been found guilty for the murders of his wife and son. The conflict is deep and complex and has caused so much pain for so many people. It became a headline in the global media where millions of people try to make sense of this story. It was adopted by the true crime community where it was turned into documentaries, podcasts, countless news articles and segments. And I watched the biggest heartbreak of my life turn into entertainment for millions. This changed everything I know. People that I thought loved me separated themselves from me. I was truly confronted with grief. Me and my family had our hearts broken in front of everyone, and some people chose to hold us, hug us, stand with us. Others chose to write movies about it. In 2022, I had the opportunity to travel, and when I'm sitting on a little island off the coast of Italy, and I overhear ladies discussing the scandal and getting the facts all wrong, I have to laugh. Remember when my biggest problem was that I was lonely? Now I have to tell strangers the truth of my life's experience because they think that they know the story better than I do? Later that summer, I dedicated some time to my yoga practice, and I went to Indonesia to study healing arts. I spent my 22nd birthday in the sky on the way to Bali. It was my first time away from home for a substantial amount of time. And there I would discover a feeling of comfortable displacement, which I would take on as a theme for the next phase of my life. I wanted to integrate my academic interest in politics with my personal interest in healing and spirituality, so I looked for outlets to study cultural advocacy. A few months later, it was January of 2023, and I was on a plane to France with my companion. He's the sweetest, funniest, most handsome boy in all of Paris, my little dog Tully. And having him with me on this journey has been the treat of my life, honestly. Nothing could define comfortable displacement like being alone in a new country, me and my dog. My first week of school was also the first week of the murder trial. So on my walk home from class, I pulled up a live stream of the trial on YouTube, and I watched my friends and family as I walked through my new city. In the summer of 2023, I had to go back to South Carolina and finish my own trial. 1 year after I had left for Indonesia, on my 23rd birthday, I met my attacker again in court. I looked him in his eyes and I fought him with the same strength that I did the first time. In the end, justice was served, as I believe it always is in one way or another. I came back to Paris and have started the rest of my life. I couldn't imagine the relief and freedom that I feel with that chapter of my life closed. Now, some days, a few days will go by and I won't even think of the trauma. I love my life in Paris, even with its challenges. I'm proud to have separated myself from what I know and created something of my own. I feel very free, and I'm very grateful. I'm not happy about the details of this story, but I can't forget them. I will never forget the first punch. I will never forget how it felt whenever I found out that my uncle and my attacker had gotten in a fight in jail. I will never forget how it felt seeing a photograph of my cousin's blurred dead body on TikTok and finding out that his brain was found at his ankles from a video that had 3 million likes. My loving cousin, only 1 year older than myself. I cried for days over that detail, but I told my professors that I didn't make it to class because I went the wrong way on the metro. I can't honor the truth if I don't shed light on it. I can't honor my journey if I'm scared of what people are going to think. I want to live bold. I want to be brave and share myself and feel every single thing. It's my honor to. When I had nothing to be sad over, I was miserable. And when I have lots to be sad over, I'm okay because I know that part of living is feeling hard things. When I was a child, I would have never thought that I would lose a loved one to gun violence. Nor would I think that I could move to Paris and share my emotional journey with all of you. I could have never predicted the assault, the same way I could have never predicted studying NGOs in India for a month over Christmas with strangers that now feel like my family. Where there is darkness, there is light. And where there is pain, there is love. I know because I feel it. It's my strength, remember? It's not normal, some of the things that I experienced, but it's also not normal that 12,000 children have been killed in Gaza. It's not normal that 5,000 people will sleep outside tonight in Paris. It's not normal that every 68 seconds an American will be raped, and that will disproportionately affect women of color. So what do we do? Do we numb ourselves because it's uncomfortable? It's hard to look tragedy in the eye and connect with it. It takes bravery. But as a collective, this is what we have to do. When we name it, we feel it, we give life to it, and this is how we heal ourselves and we heal the world around us. To limit your capacity for pain is to limit your capacity for love. I continue my journey and I will forever, and I'm not scared. I know that wherever the darkness is, the light will follow.